So here we are, completing our final day, final full day of the retreat, with the closing tomorrow morning, and then the dispersal, departure of this little makeshift community that we've had for a week. For myself, I've very much enjoyed this time here. It's great surroundings, great settings, sincere practitioners. It's been I've been enjoying listening to the reflections of Ajahn Yaniko, Ajahn Sudhiro, sitting, walking. Yeah, it's doesn't get much better, really. So, as all things, we all know, everything that arises has its time and then disbands. All conditions are transient, including retreats. So we just take this into our contemplation, make this part of the flow of our experience. And watch the mind, watch the mind in its different qualities as to what starts to arise as something else passes away, as the idea of being in retreat starts to pass away, what is taking its place. And to really pay specific attention, notable attention to this, the quality of momentum in our minds as the mind starts to move into a different mode. Probably most of us have had some sort of moments of planning for the future, planning for tomorrow, what it will be like, mapping out our strategy for departure. Okay, it's like, okay, we've got this 8:30 closing ceremony, but what I'll do beforehand is get this done and get that done, and maybe call my friend or my spouse or whatever and let them know that I'm on the way, and the silence will be broken, so we get to chat with each other, and I really want to check in with this person and make sure that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then planning for what the rest of the day is going to be, and then back to work or not back to work, or thinking of various plans and tasks, and maybe even future retreats. Sort of like, oh, this was such a good one. What can I do next? Where can I go next? How can I hold on to some of the good aspects of this? Or it was a terrible retreat. I am so glad that I get to leave finally. And when I finally get out of here, I'm just going to go and collapse. Find a nice place to have a cup of coffee and enjoy myself for the first time in 7 days. So watching the mind, in whatever mode it's in, and asking ourselves, do I need to do this? So we get pulled so easily out of the just the moment of being of here and noticing, well, it's like this, as Ajahn Sumedho would say, it's like this. Trying to keep ourselves with that quality of present moment knowing of just what it is right now, because as came up in I think the questions and answers with it today, the future is, the past is just a memory. It doesn't exist in any way other than in a memory. The future is completely unknown. We might have our plans to go out and have a nice meal, a cup of coffee, whatever it is, and as soon as we turn out onto Bull Road, a FedEx truck comes and crashes right into our car. We don't know. Hopefully that won't happen. But we've got this momentum, this mental momentum that just keeps us entwined in the world. And this momentum, this energy of becoming, a momentum of the mind that keeps us surging forward from one moment to the next. Sometimes, most of the time, without a lot of awareness, just following that impulse, that becoming energy, as the Buddha describes it, bhava, becoming, or the drive for something more, the drive for existence, the drive for future experience, keeps us just plowing on and on and on. I've often said, I've reflected, when people say, well, what basis do you have to have a working strategy of rebirth into another life? Because I obviously don't know firsthand. The Buddha talks about it, but I don't know it for myself directly, that there's future rebirth. But when I look at this momentum in my mind and how strong it is, this constant surging with becoming energy, it's very hard for me to see how the death of just these, five aggregates here, how the death of this body means that momentum stops and it doesn't exist anymore. The more I look at that strength of mental energy that just keeps moving from one moment to the next, no matter what the state of this body is, it's like, how could anything so powerful and so strong just all of a sudden completely dissolve? If it could, that would be great. I wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. But just if we're honest with ourselves and look at that, with a quiet mind, it's impressive. It's very impressive. This thrust of energy that keeps us becoming, keeps us in existence. So we see that in so many ways, the searching mind. So this becoming energy, we're looking to let it settle and not buy into it so much, not buy into the impulses that drive it. Becoming energy can also be skillful. It can be skillful or unskillful, depends on what's motivating it, and we can harness it for our practice if we look at it with clear awareness. And if the various and sundry unskillful forces are in charge, then we will seek experience, seek existence, seek reestablishing this sense of me in relation to something else. It will follow those unskillful motivations: craving, aversion, confusion, anxiety, fear. These conditions will direct us towards what our next experience was. This is, we don't necessarily, in a very direct sense, create our own reality, but we certainly program the conditions that we will be reborn into in one moment to the next moment to the next moment. And there's a lot of influence in how our mind moves into this next experience that we have. So we can learn to train the underlying motivations and the underlying tendencies in skillful ways too, so that our next moment of experience, our next moment of becoming, is moving in more of a skillful way. We can learn how to, as Ajahn Jeff might say, we learn how to fabricate skillful ways of becoming. And that's what he calls in his book the paradox of becoming, in that to realize the cessation of becoming, the ending of this becoming urge, at first we need to actually learn how it happens. And we can learn how the whole process happens by consciously directing and skillfully and consciously directing our attention to wholesome objects, to wholesome states of mind, and see quite clearly how we have the ability to fabricate these wholesome mind states and reinforce them by repetition. Then we learn how the fabrication, the creation process happens, how the becoming process happens. And we do it with skillful means that bring clarity and peace, goodness into the world. And as we learn how to do that, then we learn how to not do the other kind of becoming and to let go and release from that whole process, that unconscious process. And eventually, then we also learn how to stop that process of fabrication altogether and move more towards relinquishment. And that's where real peace will start to reveal itself, in that process of relinquishment, letting go. Sort of the opposite of the becoming energy. Some of the unskillful ways that we usually respond, or that we usually create our reality, in a sense, is through the Buddha often or has referred to them as the 8 worldly winds, the 8 worldly concerns, 4 pairs that we find ourselves usually being tossed and whirled around by. The wish for praise and the avoidance of blame, the seeking for pleasure, avoidance of pain, seeking for gain, trying to avoid loss, and trying to establish good reputation, fame, and trying to avoid disrepute. These 4 worldly winds keep bashing us around as we respond to them. So that's it's one kind of structure to look at in our lives and see if that process of that momentum of becoming is being influenced by any of those 8 states of mind that we find ourselves reinforced with our inappropriate attention, with our attention to try and find some sort of contentment within the realm of conditions. So we're all subject to varying degrees of those influences until we start to see the disadvantages of being caught in them. But they're very strong, and they can be very subtle too, not just in the gross aspects, but in the subtle aspects of all of these inclinations of the mind that's seeking fulfillment, seeking contentment in the world around us. Monastics aren't immune from this either. We're working on it as best we can, but even the Buddha points out that there are 3 of these 8 worldly winds that serve as the basic instigator for the demise of the Sangha, or the demise of a monastic. Gain, honor, and fame are said to be sort of the things, the watch factors for people in monastic life and for monasteries. The more gain, the more honor, the more fame that comes to the Sangha, the monastic Sangha, is the setting up for corruption, deterioration of that monastic or that sangha. So he speaks in very clear terms to be wary of these factors. But with reflection and teaching and effort, we develop the skillful qualities that we want to become, at least temporarily, as a way of helping us to relinquish all acquisitions, all forms of becoming. Sariputta, in a very inspired utterance of his, once said, "Nibbana is the cessation of becoming." So as that momentum starts to slow down, we have the potential to separate from all of those activities of the mind, the inclinations to move out to this or move out to that. There was a question this morning, kind of a multi-part question, or early this afternoon in the question and answer session, where part of it was, is it correct, or how can I see this or experience this? Is it a correct thing to say that one should, let's see, how was it phrased? One should not be pulled in by the mind. I think it was something like that. One should not be allow oneself to be pulled in by the mind. And I can see, the reasoning behind that. But I think, and what the impulse was, or the thrust of the question was, be pulled in by the tricks of the mind, in a sense. But probably a more accurate way to phrase it would be, one shouldn't be pulled out by the objects of the mind. Rather than being pulled in by the mind, the trickster, we get pulled out by the objects. The mind gets pulled out. And so we're looking to see if we can start to develop more of that sense of the witness, the knower. We've talked a lot about the qualities of knowing, and the fundamental awareness of the mind, the citta, fundamental awareness of the heart at the base, and seeing how we can start understanding this quality of knowing without getting pulled out into the usual objects that we get pulled out into, that are influenced by these more unskillful tendencies towards becoming. Knowing, talked about the word jnana as being one of the Pali words that's translated as knowing, and that basic quality of awareness. Knowing has, there's a number of different words that actually refer to this quality of knowing with slightly different angles, slightly different aspects of it. So we can see the word pajana in which means direct knowing, like in the Anapanasati Sutta. Breathing in, short, breathing in, long, one directly knows the short in-breath and the short out-breath. And that refers to just that very direct experience. We know it in real time. It's not a concept. It's taking it out of the realm of abstraction, the knowing that's abstracted or conceptualized, but into this direct experience. So direct knowing is one form of knowing. These are all kind of derivations from the root jnana. There's sampajanya, you've heard that word probably, sati sampajanya, clear knowing, clear awareness, referring to that knowing quality of the arising and ceasing of forms, or of feelings, perceptions, thoughts. The Buddha describes sampajanya in those terms, as well as the clear knowing sampajanya of the satipatthana, contemplation of the body, where one knows when one is walking forward or backwards, the disposition of the body, reaching out, pulling back, eating, drinking, talking, even urinating and defecating. One clearly knows that's sampajanya, when one is clearly aware of those bodily actions and of the mental actions as well. Sampajanya, clear knowing. Panya is another expression of jnana. Panya, discernment, wisdom, seeing clearly with the lens of Dhamma, knowing the qualities of anicca, dukkha, anatta, all forms of, all derivations of jnana, knowing. I think there's probably others that that I'm missing here, but all come from that basic quality of knowing. So we keep returning to that quality to investigate, examine, and be aware of. And to see if we start to use that as our reference point, rather than getting involved in the activities, the motions, the urges, the energies that keep driving us, trying to keep stepping back and establishing that clear present moment awareness in whatever we're doing. There's a teacher that, a Thai meditation master who's passed away, but he lived and taught in the earlier part of the 19th century, not very well known, but in his own time very well revered, much revered, Ajahn. And he has there's just one short, small book that some of you may have seen, Gifts He Left Behind, translated some of the reflections, very short one-page reflections and talks that he was giving to various groups, mostly Q&A kind of sessions. He didn't really do a lot of formal teaching, but some very, very beautiful reflections. And one of them, which I've been really just reacquainting myself with over the past year or so, talk about a fair amount, because I think it really points to this quality that we're talking about, is his reformulation, in a sense, of the Four Noble Truths. We all know the Four Noble Truths. That there is suffering, there is a cause, there is the cessation of suffering, and there's a path leading to the cessation. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And his reformulation of that, he kind of takes a little bit out of order. It starts with number 2. And the way he phrases it is that the cause of dukkha is the mind. The cause of dukkha is the mind going outside. The mind going outside is the cause of dukkha. The result of the mind going outside is dukkha. So he goes from 2 to 1. The mind sent out, that's what it is. The mind sent outside is the cause of dukkha. The result of the mind sent outside is dukkha. And then the path leading to the cessation of dukkha is the mind seeing the mind. So the mind seeing the mind is the path, and the result of the mind seeing the mind is the cessation of dukkha. So it puts it in very simple terms that point to the orientation of the mind in relation to the Four Noble Truths. This constant seeking objects outside of itself, the constant movement outside, is the cause of suffering. And the mind being able to just stay and see the mind itself is the cessation. So we keep just returning to that quality of knowing, stepping back. And that it requires a relinquishment, it requires a letting go of that constant obsession with what next. Where am I going? Where should I be? What can I do? Another practitioner who's very well respected when she was alive, a lay woman practitioner in Thailand, Upasakagi. She had a phrase that I think I use sometimes just almost as a mantra to bring into contemplation when I need to just settle the mind a bit and return to that quality of knowing as best I can. And she describes the pure mind, the pure heart, as an inward staying, unentangled knowing, all outward going knowing cast aside. So I find that a very straightforward, very simple, and very clear description of what the results of the practice can be, what the mind can be like as we relinquish these tendencies, these outgoing tendencies, and inward staying, unentangled knowing, all outward going knowing cast aside. And just repeating that, or saying that, or reflecting on that, what might that be like? I find quite settling and inspiring, clarifying. Ajahn Chah, of course, has his own ways of describing it too, and just the phrase that most of us are all very familiar with, describing the mind as still flowing water. He says, "Have you ever seen still water? Have you ever seen flowing water? Have you ever seen still flowing water?" Which is a beautiful description of the fact that there are both of these natures of the mind, and they're operating in conjunction with each other. We have this flow of experience passing through the mind, this constant arising and ceasing of phenomena that we experience through our sense organs, through our six sense bases. Always some sort of sight, sounds, tastes, tactile sensations, smells, thoughts arising and passing away, the flowing water of experience. And then there is still water, that quality of knowing through which this flowing water moves. And they're there with each other, two facets of the same mind. So another image to bring up to help settle the mind, still flowing water. The more we practice with that, the more we see how we can get caught up in the flow and miss the stillness, get moving into the momentum of what's next, of where to be, what to do, how to find a little bit of contentment, how to experience a little bit of pleasure, how to avoid a little bit of pain. All this movement, when we start to see it more clearly, we see that it's endless, really. And the more we see that arising and passing away, that unsatisfactoriness of being entangled with this outward going energy, this outward going attention, and how relentless it is, and how it arises without a whole lot of control on our part. Causes and conditions arising and passing away that condition all of this. And we just get so absorbed into it and let it become our reality. But the more we see it from this clear, cool place in the heart, this knowing quality, we learn to dwell more with just the awareness, with the knowing, but that's not the end of it. There's the final relinquishment is based on a sense of disenchantment with this whole process, which results in a sense of dispassion. This is the kind of if you, for want of a better word, the emotional response in this process of seeing clearly. Once we see very, very clearly the nature of the reality that we usually absorb into, once we see this with absolute clarity, then that emotional response of just not being fooled by it, not feeling the need to get entangled with it anymore, because we realize quite deeply how transient it all is. Disenchantment isn't kind of like an indifference or a disgust. It's more of a waking up, not being enchanted by the spell anymore, seeing result of clear seeing. And with that becomes a sense of this dispassion. Just don't need to go there anymore. Don't want to go there anymore. And at that point, we relinquish this energy that keeps us entangled. The becoming energy slows down. And the opportunity to open to the unconditioned, the teachings say, that opportunity opens to us to see or glimpse the unconditioned. As back to Sariputta's statement, Nibbana is the cessation of becoming. It's not something that we create and move into, but it's something that we realize through relinquishment, through letting go. And it causes us to be able to shift our focus. So this is the potential culmination of the practice that we're doing. This is where it can lead if we take it to its fullest potential. But we just need to start where we are at and trying to step back and see where it is that our minds, our hearts are taking us as we're starting to move into another experience. And trying to just see this experience for all of its good points and all of its difficulties, this experience of this retreat, this past 7 days, as another event, one that hopefully we've gained some benefit from, had some moments of insight, possibly, maybe just a little one, and moving on, not clinging to it, not wishing it would never end, not wishing it would end sooner than tomorrow, just seeing it all with that lens of clarity that knows it as a skillful event, but one that also is in its latter phase and will fade into a memory. There's some good things, we can conjure up those good things to inspire us, and then we go from there. So just to take some of these thoughts for consideration for this evening, and to enjoy the last moments of our silent camaraderie with each other, rejoicing in the presence of Sangha, this whole fourfold assembly that we have here, and really just taking delight in preserving this as a refuge for us, for now, for the future, hopefully, and using it for our own welfare and also to create goodness in the world. So tomorrow, we'll be coming together for morning puja, practice together for a bit more in the morning, have a closing ceremony at 8:30 to tie it up. It's nice if, as much as, I know some people have to leave early, but if you at all can make sure to stay, it's a very nice way to close off a week of practice together. And be careful at breakfast when you start talking. Watch the momentum of the mind there, and just be aware of the kind of accumulated energy that can start to burst forth when you first start speaking again, and to allow yourself to moderate that if need be, and enjoy the space together, the time together, as we move into disbanding and letting this change into something else. So I'll leave that for this reflection tonight.